Hi, my name is Steve Walk, and I am a physics tutor and mentor with iAchieve Learning. Many of you have probably asked a question at some time, engineering, well, what's up with that? Not many of us know engineers, not many of us have experience in engineering setting. Well, I want to take a few minutes here to answer that question for you. I am a retired professional engineer, and I can speak from my experience just what engineering is. So in our few minutes together here, I want to answer three questions for you. What is engineering? That's the basis here. Is engineering for me? Is it something that you might consider for a career or a profession? And answer the question, what can you do now to prepare to be an engineer later? Whether you're in grade school, middle school, high school, there are things you can do, especially once you see what engineering is. So the first little story I'll tell you is, this is fictitious, but you can pretend. A bunch of students from school went out to find out just what engineering is, what engineers do. They went visiting some places where they met engineers, and they just observed the engineers and watched what they did. Then they all came back together and they shared what they saw. Okay, so they ended up with a short list of what they found out that engineers do, and it goes like this: they found that engineers solve problems. Okay, you hear that a lot. Engineers solve problems. They observed that engineers apply a lot of physics and mathematics. That's true. Engineers make things. They saw engineers making things, making new things. And they saw engineers fixing things. Engineers will gather around and fix something, using their engineering skills. So they found out that engineering was a bunch of things, and it reminds me of the old fable of the blind men and the elephant, where many different blind men walked up to an elephant and they each felt a different part of the elephant and exclaimed what it was. Somebody felt the trunk, somebody felt the tail, somebody felt the leg. And so the fable fits here that if you go at engineering, you'll see a lot of different parts, okay? But each part isn't all that engineering is, in the same way that each part of an elephant doesn't describe the whole elephant. So what I want to do is take these parts that we're thinking about and put them into one idea, the elephant, so to speak, of what engineering is. But first, before we get there, let's just talk about engineering in your world, engineering around you that you may not have thought about, okay? And let me suggest this. Engineering is the most successful of all the endeavors created by human beings. Engineering is the most successful endeavor we have created. It's more successful than politics. Ask your mom and dad. It's more successful than economics. It's more successful than psychology has been. Even many of the sciences just have not been so successful as engineering over the ages. So I want you to think about that as we're understanding what engineering is and what it might mean for you. So engineering is all around you. Look around you in the room you're at. You got a computer in front of you, maybe a lamp and some furniture. You got some walls and windows, okay? Everything around you, except maybe something that grew naturally, has been engineered, okay? Engineers are all over everything you've looked at. I'll give you an example. Paint on the wall, okay? It took engineers to create the paint. Somebody had to understand, it was a chemical engineer, understood the pigments and the base and the emollients, whatever it would take to make a paint. And then it took engineers to figure out how to make that paint in batches. How do you make 1,000 or 10,000 gallons of it? That's all kind of machinery, and you got to control temperature. You got to do a whole bunch of things, and it takes engineers to do that. Then you have to engineer what you're going to put it in, a paint can, okay? You have to engineer the can. Is it stiff? Will it not collapse? How do you put a lid on it that you can use over and over without the paint drying out? How do you put a handle on it, okay? How do you hook the handle onto the paint can itself? That's all engineering, okay? And then you have to let alone move the paint to a store, which takes all kinds of transportation engineering. You got to put it on a shelf, and the shelves have to be engineered so they don't fall down when you put the heavy can of paint on top of it. The shirt you're wearing, the shoes you're wearing, the pencil you're using, all kinds of engineering went into that. All kinds of engineering. It's all around you. Our whole modern world succeeds and works so well because of engineering. Still, we're not talking yet just what it's like. We're talking about it and showing some things about it. Let's go a little further. Well, if engineering is so successful, okay, and everything we rely on, our clothing, the temperature in our house, that our car will start tomorrow, all of that depends on good engineering. And it's by far, okay, if you think about it, by far the best tool we have to solve problems, and make things better for ourselves. Why aren't there any engineers on TV? We have doctor shows, lawyer shows, police shows, all kinds of shows with people in their professions. No engineering shows. Here it is, about the best thing that human beings can put together, and there's no TV shows about them. I only know of one engineer in all the history of my TV watching, and that was an old TV show called My Three Sons, and the father of the three sons was an aeronautical engineer. And matter of fact, there was one episode where one of the sons, the youngest son, was embarrassed because his father was only a pencil pusher, and these other kids' fathers did all these exciting things. So that's me. There are no engineering TV shows. Well, the thing is, this is where we're getting to the idea of what is engineering. Doing engineering is simply using plain old common sense. It took plain old common sense to get a rocket with people in it to the moon. Plain old common sense, okay? It's plain old common sense built the smartphone that you have. It's hard to believe, but that's the way engineering works. If they didn't rely on common sense, it wouldn't be so successful. And anyway, who wants to watch a TV show about a bunch of people going around doing very sensible things? Boring, right? Boring to watch an engineer in many ways. So this brings us to what engineering is. Now I'm going to talk about the elephant, where we had seen a whole bunch of parts. Now, I'll say the sentence, then I'll break it down. Engineering is the use of heuristics. Heuristics are just laws that aren't real rigid. To cause the best change in a situation. That's what we like. We like the best thing to happen with the available resources, what we have around us, and incomplete information. We just never know everything there is to know about a situation. So engineering is the use of heuristics. There are no hard rules in engineering. There are just rules that work well, and we use them for now, but we know they could change at any time. Okay? They're just soft rules. They're common sense. The common sense approach is to do this or that, but that can change over time. And many things have changed over time in engineering, but engineers let them change only slowly. Very carefully do we make changes in our heuristics. To cause the best change, okay, we try to get the best done. Will this be the perfect change? Will this be the absolute long-term fix for something? Well, not necessarily, but it's going to be the best we can right now, given the resources we have. Resources is time, resources is skills, resources is material, resources is money. Given those resources, and they're all limited, okay, we do the best we can. And we do it with incomplete information. If I'm going to make a new toy or something, design it and make it a little robot or something that runs around. I might show it to several children and they all like it. So I go, boy, this will be a good product. But the information is incomplete. I haven't talked to everybody. Not everybody has played with this toy and told me what I might do better with it. So, but I've got the best I have. The best I have is this available resource of some materials to make the robot. I have some information from some people. I've got some heuristics about keeping it safe and making sure the batteries last a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but just a good long time. It's a heuristic, and that is engineering. And that's what engineers do. They work with heuristics to cause the best change they can at the moment, given limited resources and limited information. Okay, that is engineering. Let's take that a step further. Let's relate that to you, okay? Because the question is, if that's engineering, is engineering for me? You may ask that question. You may have been thinking about it, okay? Let's give an example. Let's say you are starting a new chapter in some class, math or science or could be anything, Spanish, whatever it is. Got a new chapter to learn, okay? So how do you go about it? Well, you know that what you probably should do is skim the chapter, look for ideas that you know, ideas you don't know. Go read through the chapter again to go a little further and to better understand some of the new ideas. Maybe it's new words in a language. Some of them you write down, questions for the teacher later on, that kind of thing. That's how you go through the chapter. Well, going through the chapter like that is using heuristics. There are some good things to do, common sense things, heuristics, which are rules that are a little fuzzy, a little soft, that you use to go through the chapter. That's what you do. And you're going to read the chapter to pick up as best you can the new material, given a limitation in resources. Okay, you only have so much time. You may not have other books around you where you can look up words or get a second way of looking at something. You can use the internet, but even that can be limited. Okay, so you have a limited amount of resources for you. Okay, and you don't have all the information you need. You don't know exactly what the teacher's looking for. When you read a chapter in science, you don't know exactly which of all this information is going to be the most important. You just don't know yet. So when you go about learning material in a new chapter in a book, you do it with engineering. That is engineering. I just showed you. You use heuristics to make the best change with limited resources and not all the information you have. And that is engineering. Here's the bottom line. Is engineering for you? Here's the answer. If you are a human being, you are an engineer. If you are a human being, you are an engineer. You just want to choose if you want to do that for a living or not. Okay? So, the next idea is, well, do I want to do this for a living, or do I just want to go ahead and engineer things the rest of my life? Because we're all good engineers, born that way, okay? If it wasn't an innate skill in all human beings, it wouldn't be such a successful endeavor for human beings. So in the profession, being a professional career, doing engineering for a living, having engineering in your job title, what are the most important skills? Now, many people say, math and science, you got to know your math and science, got to know your math and science. Well, that's true, but that's certainly not at the top of the list, okay? The most important skill you can have to be a successful engineer is creativity. It takes a lot of creativity to take a limited bunch of resources and a limited idea of where you're going and no idea what this thing's going to look like when you're done and do it. That takes a lot of creativity. There was a wonderful story in the Apollo 13 movie where they had to create some kind of air filter out of just stuff that was available in their space capsule, and they just had a pile of junk on the table, and we have to make a filter out of this stuff. That takes creativity. Now, the second most important skill an engineer has is empathy. Empathy is understanding and caring about the feelings or thoughts of other people. That's empathy, okay? Trying to see what somebody else is thinking or feeling and trying to relate to them at that level, okay? So it turns out that everything an engineer creates is destined to a human being. Whatever you create, whatever you're engineering, a human being is going to use it. And you have to know something about that human being and their needs. And the better you know that human being, what they think, what they feel, what they need, the better your engineering product is going to be. Sometimes that human being is just the next person down the row in your manufacturing line. You're building a sub-assembly and you're designing it rather, and you're going to send that design off to somebody else. The human being is just another engineer, not the one who finally uses the product, puts it in their car and uses it, for example. But you have to have empathy. You got to know that next human being who's going to take your stuff. Third most important skill for an engineer is communication. Okay, you've got to be able to communicate. Writing and talking communication is critical. Because what you're trying to do, you may have an idea in your head. You've got a little idea for a product or a part, and you've got it all in your head, and you know just what it is. Somehow you got to get that idea exactly or near perfectly in somebody else's head. Now, that's not easy. Okay, and if it doesn't go in that other person's head, they don't get it. Okay, your idea is not going to go anywhere. There's no engineering is going to happen. It's very difficult. Okay, to engineer with a group of people, to move ideas along, swap and share what it is, because we all have our own brains observing what's going on, and it takes communication skills to move those ideas around. Okay, the fourth skill for success in engineering is identifying opportunities. Okay, opportunities for something new. Most engineering is all about doing something a little better, doing something a little different, making things easier, making things faster. The best opportunity back in that definition of engineering. So if you have a good observation skill to identify, we could do it this way, or we should do this, or something like, this doesn't work very well, let's do it better. That is a great skill to have. Okay. Now, creativity, empathy, communication, and identifying opportunities or defining a problem, those are skills that build over time. You have some of those skills already. Okay, but they build over time in terms of a career and being a professional. The fifth skill I have here goes without saying, math and science. You just have to have those kinds of skills. But notice they're like number 5. They're not number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Okay, those other skills are far more important in engineering success. So the last question. And my final point for today is, what can you do now to become an engineer, you may ask, okay? Well, first thing is to prepare to go to college, okay? Be thinking about college early as you can, because decisions in classes in junior high school lead to opportunities in high school, and then they lead to opportunities at the university level. So you have to be thinking about that. Certainly focus on math and science. If you don't like math and science that much, you can still be an engineer, because it takes creativity and communication, okay, and empathy. You don't learn those in math and science, and they're more important skills than the math and science. I've had students at university who just couldn't handle the calculus. It was very difficult, but they were so creative, and they were so intent on building and creating cool new things. They were going to be very good engineers, excellent engineers. Okay, read all you can about engineering accomplishments and the lives of famous engineers like Tesla, Bell, Edison, Westinghouse. There are some other engineers around today. Read about them. See what each of their lives was like, and see if that's a lifestyle, a way of living that you would like. Find out. Okay, do some stuff. Get some kits and some projects, and build things and fix things and play with things, and as much as you can. Pay attention in labs at school to get very good at using technology and technical equipment, measurements, and that sort of thing. Okay, so get some kits and projects. See if you're good at working with technologies, which is applied math and science, really. And the most important thing you can do is talk to 5 engineers. Go talk to people who are engineers. you don't even know what questions to ask them yet. You don't know what questions to ask about life as an engineer. When you get talking, the questions will come up, the answers will be there. That person, almost all engineers are friendly people, want to share their careers with you. They'll ask you questions, and then your mind will grow, and your concept of what it is to be an engineer and is that right for you, it's going to make a lot more sense. So talk to 5 engineers. Okay, I hope that answered your questions about engineering. What's up with that? And I hope you have some ideas about thinking about being an engineer and how you might go about that. Okay. My name is Steve Walk, and I am a physics tutor and mentor with iAchieve Learning. Happy to have been with you. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.